neighbor of Prophet Muhammad in Jannah. Allahumma ameen. SubhanAllah, one of the beauties of our religion of Islam is its universality. It's a universal religion. It applies to every time. It applies to every location. It applies to every age. It applies to every person, no matter what their background is. And of the universal messages of Islam is a very important hadith that most of us, if not all of us, know, which is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Jibreel. The angel Jibreel came as a human form, and he came to the Prophet ﷺ when he was sitting with his companions, and he asked the Prophet ﷺ questions, so that the Prophet ﷺ answers those questions, so that the people can listen, so that we can get those narrations 1400 plus years later. And of the questions that Prophet Jibreel asked, the angel Jibreel asked Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he asked him, what is Islam? And Prophet ﷺ gave him the answer of the 5 pillars of Islam. He asked him, what is Iman? Prophet ﷺ gave him the 6 pillars of Iman. But the topic of today's khutbah is regarding the highest level. The question that Jibreel alayhi salam asked Prophet ﷺ, he asked him, what is Ihsan? What is Ihsan? What is excellence? Ihsan in the Arabic language can be translated as excellence. So Prophet ﷺ gave him a very profound answer, a very deep answer in a few words. He said, Al-Ihsan an ta'bud Allah ka'annaka tarah fa'in lam takun tarah fa'innahu yarak. The highest level of our religion is Ihsan. Islam is the basic. Iman is the next level. But Ihsan is the pinnacle. And what is Ihsan? It's to worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you can't see Allah, Allah sees you. This is the answer of the Prophet ﷺ to Jibreel alayhi salam, so that the companions can hear that answer, so we can get that narration, so that we can apply it in our everyday lives. How do we apply Ihsan in our everyday lives? That's the topic of the khutbah today. Some aspects that we can strive to make our lives better, to get to that highest level, slowly. Not everything will change all of a sudden in our lives, but we need to take the steps towards it. So the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us what Ihsan is. It's excellence. It's to worship Allah as if you see Him. If you can't see Allah, Allah sees you. We have to feel that feeling. We have to think that. We have to understand that Allah is seeing me right now, every waking second of our lives. When I'm waking up, I quickly remember, before I think about myself, before I think about my family, before I think about my job, I think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gave me life. Allah gave me a new day. When I'm going to work, I'm not thinking about the people. I'm thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In every single waking second in our lives, we should be thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ talks about slaughtering animals. But he begins the hadith, Prophet ﷺ, by saying, إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah, who is blessed and exalted, has decreed that everything should be done in an excellent way, in a good way. Everything should be done in an excellent way. And Prophet ﷺ goes forward in this hadith to explain about how we should slaughter animals. Even when we're slaughtering an animal, you're taking away the life of an animal, but you should do it excellently. Every single aspect of our lives as Muslims should be done in an excellent way. So for example, like when we're slaughtering an animal, the Prophet ﷺ continues the hadith and he says, فَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَةِ وَإِذَا ذَبَحْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الذَّبْحَ وَلْيَحِدَّ أَحَدُكُمْ شَفْرَتَهُ وَلْيَرِحْ ذَبِيحَتَهُ. So many considerations, even though you're killing an animal, but you have to do it in an excellent way, because it's a slaughter, because you're doing it for the sake of Allah, because we're doing it to benefit from it, because Allah created these animals for us to benefit from. Prophet ﷺ says, when you kill, use a good method. And when you cut an animal's throat, you should use a good method. For each of you should sharpen their knife and give the animal as little pain as possible. SubhanAllah, even when you're slaughtering an animal to eat its meat, Allah and the Prophet ﷺ are asking us to be excellent in that. So how about every other aspect of our lives? We should live our lives with this intention and theme of excellence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala motivates us and tells us to think forward. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah. O you who believe, have taqwa towards Allah. وَلْتَنظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. and let oneself look what they prepared for tomorrow, meaning hereafter, the hereafter. We don't think just about our day to day. We don't think about the necessary obligations to survive. We have a higher purpose as Muslims. We have a purpose to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to do so in an excellent way. So inshallah today we'll be talking about aspects in our everyday lives that we can be conscious about, that we can be cognizant to try and do those everyday aspects in a more excellent way. And we start by our own selves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us so that the angels prostrated to us because we have the mental capacity to think and to learn. So it would be a shame for us not to utilize that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And non-Muslims are realizing that. They're realizing that we need to continuously improve ourselves. There's a famous book called Atomic Habits. The author says you should improve yourself 1% every day. If you just improve yourself 1% every single day, by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better. It's compounded. So how about us as Muslims who are given this purpose in life to worship Allah excellently? We should be cognizant that every single day, we have the ability to either improve ourselves this 1%, or we can stay stagnant, or we can actually deteriorate that 1%. And it adds up over time. And we're thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that He gave us. We're grateful for Allah's blessings. We have so much. But that doesn't stop us from striving for more, for being excellent in our pursuit to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we start with our own selves. We start with our own day-to-day lives to make every single aspect of our day as perfectly and as excellently as possible. Part of our day-to-day lives is our relationships with our families. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. When you think about family ties, the ties of kinship, the most important ties of family that we need to maintain excellently is the one of our parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah has decreed that you don't worship anyone but Him, and you're excellent towards your parents. For those of us who have parents who are alive, we check on them, we ask what they need, we treat them nicely, we talk to them nicely. For those of us who had a parent or both parents pass away, we make dua for them. It doesn't stop by them passing away. It's a commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's another famous hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says about the ties of kinship, that لَيْسَ الْوَاصِلُ بِالْمُكَافِئ وَلَكِنَّ الْوَاصِلَ الَّذِي إِذَا قُطِعَتْ رَحِمُهُ وَصَلَهَا. Maintaining family ties is not when your family member asks about you, then you check up on them. When they're nice to you, you're nice to them. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that's not the case. The proper way to do and maintain Salatul Rahim, the ties of kinship, is that even if they cut you off, even if they're not asking about you, even if they're cold towards you, you're nice to them because you're doing it excellently for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a very interesting hadith about that. So that the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is the best sadaqah? What is the best form of charity? The Prophet ﷺ says, عَلَى ذِي الرَّحِمِ الْكَاشِحِ. On a family member who might not be nice to you, but they need the money. That's the best form of charity. Because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is another aspect where we can practice excellence, inshallah. And in people in general, outside of the family members, there's a Sahabi, his name is Ibn Mas'ud, and he said a very important message. He said, لا تكونوا إمعا إن أحسن الناس أحسننا وإن ظلموا ظلمنا. Don't be without a character, without a personality. If people treat you nicely, you're nice to them. If they're bad to you, you're bad to them. As Muslims, we should be leaders. We should lead by example. The Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. SubhanAllah, this is an important ayah that is a little bit difficult for us to apply, but it has a lot of wisdom in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, good and evil cannot be equal. Respond to evil from people. People treat you badly, respond to that with what is best. Then the one who you are in a feud with will be like a close friend. If someone is harming you and being mean to you and attacking you, if you are able to be the bigger person and treat them nicely, show that excellence, they're going to be ashamed of themselves. They're going to back away and they're going to realize it's not worth it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. And that's not given, this like ability to treat people nicely even though they're bad to you, except those who are patient and those who have great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's difficult, but we should strive for that. These excellent behaviors that we can apply in our everyday lives, we're not going to wake up tomorrow and have them all happening to us. We need to work towards them. And of course, we need to be excellent in our deen, in our worship. When we pray, are we focused on our prayer? Are we feeling that we're talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are we feeling that this is the best part of our days? The time that we're using to worship Allah and perform our salah? Or are we doing it just to check a box? Are we doing it because we feel like we have to? This is where the excellence comes into play. How do we use our time when we're driving and commuting, when we have downtime, when we're waiting for things? Are we doing dhikr? Are we listening to beneficial Quran, to lectures? How are we using up our time? One of the prophets of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to him and asked him. He told him that the rules of Islam have become a lot to me. So give me something, just one thing, so that I can hold on to firmly, so that I'm in a good place. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, لا يزال لسانك رطبا بذكر الله. It should be that your tongue is always moist by the remembrance of Allah. That was the Prophet ﷺ advice to the companion who felt like there's a lot to do. He told him, just stick to dhikr. Remember Allah. When you have downtime and you're saying astaghfirullah, you're saying alhamdulillah, you're saying subhanallah, it will change you. It will change you inside. And of course, the excellence in our worship encompasses everything, not just salah, not just dhikr, but our fasting. Are we fasting extra Mondays and Thursdays? Are we fasting 3 days every month? Are we going above and beyond to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Finally, finances. Even our money that Allah gave us is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are ways to be excellent in our relationship with our money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُبْطِلُوا صَدَقَاتِكُمْ بِالْمَنِّ وَالْأَذَى. If you give charity to someone, do not ruin that charity by telling the person, oh, I gave you this. You harm the person. You give charity to someone needy and then you remind them, hey, I gave you this the other time. I'm giving you this. I'm doing you a favor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, don't do that. It's not of the good behaviors. It's not of the excellence of a Muslim to do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Another aspect of excellence that we can embody in our financial lives is eat and drink, but do not be excessive. Allah does not like those who commit excess, wastefulness. We should not be wasteful. We should not spend our money mindlessly. We should be careful how we spend it. And finally, when we're buying and we're selling, Prophet ﷺ says, رَحِمَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا سَمِحًا إِذَا بَاعَ سَمِحًا إِذَا اشْتَرَى سَمِحًا إِذَا اقْتَضَى. May Allah have mercy. This is from the Prophet ﷺ. He's making a dua, and we hope that we are all of those people. May Allah have mercy on a person who is lenient when he sells, lenient when he buys, and lenient when he asks for payment. Having that good relationship, even when you're trading, even when you're selling and buying, is a form of excellence, and that would give us that dua of the Prophet ﷺ. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us embody excellence in our everyday lives, in every aspect, and make it easy for us. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله العلي العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه فيا فوز المستغفرين. استغفر. الحمد لله على إحسانه والشكر له على توفيقه وامتنانه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Subhanallah, the year is coming to an end. You're gonna hear people talking about New Year's resolutions as if suddenly, all of a sudden, January 1st comes around and you're a new person, everything changes. As Muslims, I don't think that's wise for us to wait. We should treat every single day as a new form of us to getting closer to Allah, to improving ourselves. And one of my favorite dua is one that I heard the Shaykh say, اللهم اجعل يومي أفضل من أمسي وغدي أفضل من يومي. Oh Allah, make my today better than my yesterday and my tomorrow better than my today. So we're continuously improving. We're not waiting for a specific date to come around, but it's a good time for us to reflect and to be motivated and to think, how did this last year of my life go about? And how do I want my next year to be? Do I want to be passive? Do I want to be controlled, or do I want to take charge? Do I want to be conscious? Do I want to do things deliberately with intention? To do things excellently to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our everyday better than the day before, and we do things excellently. My last message today, inshallah, is time management. SubhanAllah, we waste, all of us are guilty of it, I'm sure. We waste a lot of time. And there's a very profound and scary saying from Imam al-Hasan al-Basri. He said, يَا ابْنَ آدَمْ إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ أَيَّامٍ فَإِذَا ذَهَبَ يَوْمُكَ ذَهَبَ بَعْضُكَ. O son of Adam, you are just but days. You're made up of days. You have a certain number of days that Allah knows. So if you waste a day, you wasted part of your life. It's not coming back. When we kill time to have fun because we're bored, we're killing part of our lives. We're killing part of us that's never going to come back. So we need to be very protective of this asset. If you have money, you're protective of your money. But this is worth more than our money, which is our lives, is our free time. So we have to be very careful with our time. The Prophet ﷺ told us, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس. Take advantage of 5 things before 5 things happen. Take advantage of your youth before your old age. Take advantage of your health before you get sick. Take advantage of your wealth before you become poor. Take advantage of your free time before you're busy. And take advantage of your life before you die. We're all headed towards that destination. There is no escape from it. But the wisdom and the motivation that the Prophet ﷺ is telling us is take advantage of what you have now before you lose it. And in another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, لا تزول قدما عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن عمره فيما أفناه وعن علمه فيما فعل فيه وعن ماله من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه وعن جسمه فيما أبلاه. Everything we do will be asked about. Man's feet will not move on the day of resurrection before he is asked about his life. How did he consume his life? His knowledge. What did he do with it? Allah gave you some knowledge. What did you do with it? Allah will ask us all. Your wealth. How did he earn it and how did he dispose of it? And his body, how did he wear it out? So everything that Allah has given us will be asked about. So we want to have prepared good answers, excellent answers. And we can't lie on that day. We'll answer truthfully. It's how we live our lives is how we will be able to answer those questions correctly on the Day of Judgment. So my last message for me and all of us is to visualize a productive day. You wake up before Fajr. You do Qiyam in that last third of the night where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and asks who has something they need so I can answer it. Imagine that's your day. You wake up before Fajr. You pray. You make dua. You pray Fajr. Ideally at the masjid. You do your adhkar. You go to work excellently. I came across an interview of a celebrity, and he was saying he got his first job to sweep the floor, and he was like not motivated. He was not happy that he's stuck doing that. He had bigger aspirations, but he told himself, what if I get $1 million after I sweep the floor really well? So that changed his attitude. It made him so that he sweeps the floor really well. So he got really good at it, and then he got the next job. He did it really well because he was visualizing the $1 million if he did it. And this person has become an actual millionaire now. For us Muslims, we have something bigger than $1 million that we think about. We think that Allah is seeing us. We think that Allah is seeing us when I'm going to work, when I'm doing anything. So imagine waking up before Fajr, praying Fajr on time, going to work, doing it excellently, doing the adhkar, doing your Quran, memorizing more. That should be, inshallah, our daily goals for all of us, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it so that we don't regret when the day comes that the regret doesn't help us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of the people who are productive, who help others, who embody this deen, who help ourselves, our families, and the community as a whole. أقول قولي هذا اللهم اغفر لنا اللهم ارحمنا اللهم تب علينا